When are you going to come down? When are you going to land? I should have stayed on the farm. I should have listened to my old man. Have you ever had a song that transported you back in time? To that time, that place, that person? For me, it was Elton John's Yellow Brick Road. That song transports me back almost 50 years. My mother had packed myself, my older brother, and my younger sister into a small moving van in Fall River, Massachusetts. She was heading north. She was leaving my father. She was heartbroken over infidelity. When I hear that song, I see the nighttime skyline of Boston as we cross Tobin Bridge. And I see this beyond my mother's singing mouth. You know you can't hold me forever. I treasure this memory, and I am blessed that this song is a reminder of the first time that I ever went home. At dawn, we were pulling into the driveway of my grandmother's house, Beatrice. She lived on Oak Hill, Indian Island, Maine. My grandmother was a basket maker, although she didn't weave. She braided sweetgrass. I remember as a small child watching in amazement as the braids seemingly grew from her fingertips. Beatrice was so fast she could make grass sing, as the blades whipped through the air and were brought together in fine braids. She sat in her chair, with another chair facing her. No one ever sat in that chair. The only thing I ever saw on the seat of that chair was unbraided, damp sweetgrass on newspaper. She would reach down and pull strand by strand, bringing each one into the braid. She braided until her death in 1990. Miles of braided sweetgrass stored in her closet, awaiting her weaver friends.
The young maiden, because she is tender and with fair brow, she shall be the brightness of our house. She shall welcome all that come to abide with us. And because her strength is great and must be felt all over the land, she shall give it to those who come, because none can abide without it. Strength is hers, because she is the seed of the world.
And her house always smelled like toast that she cooked on the stove and sweetgrass. She had one of those camp toasters that she put on the propane burner.
Should be your film company. Toast and sweetgrass. Toast and sweetgrass production. Yeah, okay. I like that. Me too. It feels nice and homey.
In our communities, there used to be sweetgrass braiding parties. Women usually are the ones that are braiding the grass for their baskets, and you braid a lot of grass. And so it can be really time consuming and really tedious and boring if you're by yourself doing it. So women would get together and have these parties, and they were loud and they were funny, and there's still stories being told about these parties in our community today. There was food and there was a lot of fun and a lot of laughter. Sweetgrass has always been really important in my life. One of my earliest memories is of the smell of sweetgrass. My grandmother always had a big bundle hanging in her living room, and it always smelled so good. And so even as a little tiny girl, I love the smell of sweetgrass. A long time ago, there was an old woman who lived by herself outside of the main village. She was friendly with the Mikumwes, or little people, who are fairy-like beings who live in the rocks or under the ground and are known for their love of playing tricks. Even today, when we lose something, the Mikumwes sometimes are blamed, and gifts are put out in hopes that the lost item will be returned. One morning, the old woman came out of her wigwam, dressed for a journey with 3 bags tied onto her belt. In all the many years they had known the old woman, the Mikumwes had never seen her wear these mysterious bags before. They were very, very intrigued and decided to accompany her. They traveled until they reached the edge of a large salt marsh. It was afternoon and the sun was warm, the breeze was just right, and the salty air made everyone sleepy. The old woman decided to rest and put down her baskets and untie her belt and nap for a while. She set the bags beside her and told the Mikumwes not to open the bags. Of course, this made them even more curious and even more determined to find out what was in the bags. So they waited, and once she had fallen asleep and was snoring away, they carefully and quietly pulled one of the bags away. Bursting with anticipation and excitement, they worked to untie the knot that held it shut. Finally, the knot was untied and the bag was pulled open. Out of the bag flew hundreds and thousands of tiny seeds, jumping and dancing and leaping their way into the marsh. The Mikumwes too jumped and leaped in surprise and began chase, trying to catch the seeds and return them to the bag. But the seeds were too fast and were diving into the mud. All of the squealing, running, dancing, and chasing woke the old woman up. Some say she was angry, some say she was amused and knew all along they would open the bag. She walked to the edge of the marsh and began to sing, and as she sang, bright green grass began to push up through the muck. With each verse of her song, the grass grew taller and stronger until thousands of shiny green blades of grass were swaying in the wind. When her song had ended, she blew her breath across the marsh, and the sweet scent that we know as woolly muskegul, sweetgrass, the good grass, arose. Picking sweetgrass and being in the marsh is always really special. A lot of good memories of picking sweetgrass with my friend and her dog. Everyone has a special place that they go, and a lot of times it's somewhere that their family has gone for generations and generations, and you can really feel that connection. Really, in any marsh you go, you know that one of your ancestors has been there before you and has picked grass there. People who pick sweetgrass talk about how they feel like the grass remembers them, like that sweetgrass has a memory too and remembers us.